N64. Find them, frame them, and shoot. You can even bring your Snap cartridge to a participating Blockbuster video and print out stickers of your favorites.
Doesn't look like they're coming out today. Hard luck.
Pokemon Snap. Gotta catch 'em.
What if I told you that Pokémon Snap had a secret purpose? One with a long-term objective literally decades in the making. What if I told you that Pokémon Snap was an early part of a propaganda campaign that lasts to this day? Let me open your eyes. Dumb jokes aside, Pokémon Snap really was one of the first signs of a long-running strategy in the franchise. It's a very unique game that was handled and distributed very differently than most. Released in 1999 for the N64, Pokémon Snap was developed by HAL Laboratory and published by Nintendo. It had very solid sales in both Japan and the US, but more notably, it was the most rented game for almost all of its release year. Despite never owning an N64, I played a fair bit of Pokémon Snap when I was younger. I played when visiting my friends and cousins, yes, but more often I played at store kiosks, and while I couldn't find any evidence for this, I wouldn't be surprised if Snap was in some arcades. This is due to a wildly successful promotional campaign among many stores, but most famously with Blockbuster and the ability to print pictures taken in-game. But Nintendo and what would become the Pokémon Company didn't just want to push sales. They had another objective, one that would slowly but surely bear fruit over decades, and Snap was a key piece of their strategy. See, there's a reason Snap was so successful with specifically rental sales. It's a very short game, even for the N64. If you know what you're doing, the entire game can be cleared in roughly an hour, maybe 2 max. Individual sessions are pretty much capped at 5 minutes, many of which are even less. If you played at store demo stations while your parents were on a longer shopping session, it wouldn't be unreasonable to actually see every level, other than maybe one special stage. And I think Nintendo did this on purpose. I think they knew people would primarily rent this game. I think they knew kids would be able to see most of the game while waiting for their parents in the electronics sections of Walmart. But the real question is why? Well, to answer that, we need to talk about Pokémon Snap itself. Pokémon Snap is a famously unique game. There was nothing else quite like it at the time. The gameplay is very simple. You play as Todd Snap and ride a vessel designed by Professor Oak on a series of rails to take pictures of Pokémon in their natural environment. There are 63 mons available in Snap, and it's your job to find them all. That's right, 63, not 64. As you progress through the levels, you unlock a number of tools that change how Pokémon behave depending on how you use them. Apples can lure Pokémon to different areas and angles, along with making them eat. Pester Balls annoy some Pokémon while others love them. The Pokéflute has a variety of effects on different Pokémon, and you can speed up your vessel if you like, which isn't just to speed through courses for a specific shot. There are other purposes as well. And those Pokémon really are just hanging out. Some are playing, some are hiding, some are even fighting. They're acting like living creatures. Animals. They exist independent of the player, and either independent of each other or coexisting. Keep in mind though, this is an old game and has a lot of limitations. If you choose to ride through each zone over and over without using any items or taking any pictures, pretty much the same things will happen around you every time. There is some variance, but it's very minimal. Everything exists on a timer. There isn't a lot of challenge in the game, and it's optional when it is present, but what's there is rooted in the mysticism of the Pokemon world. Whether it's figuring out how to snap a pic of Magneton or getting the perfect shot of Dragonite, there's a lot of secret Pokemon in this game. Some are very simple to find, while others are actually pretty tricky. In fact, let's take a look at a couple notable examples. Spoilers, by the way. Capturing Starmie is relatively simple, but if you don't know it's going to happen, you'll miss it. Snap a pic of Staryu in the valley at a particular point and it'll start orbiting you. At the end of the rapids, Staryu will dive into the whirlpool and evolve into Starmie. You can do this with all 3 Staryu at the same time to capture a really cool picture. Gyarados is probably the hardest Pokemon to find from a skill point of view. Again in Valley, near the beginning of the level, a Magikarp will be jumping out of the water. You'll need to speed forward right away and spam apples or pester balls to knock it out of the water when it jumps. The timing is actually kinda tough. If you succeed, Magikarp will inexplicably fly away over a mountain. Later on, you'll encounter a waterfall. You need to turn around, which you naturally wouldn't do because the framing is focused on the waterfall. Very clever. Once you find the Magikarp, hit it with an apple or pester ball and it'll jump into the waterfall and you'll have a short amount of time to get some great pictures as it evolves into Gyarados. There are a pretty good number of secret Pokemon like this, with varying levels of difficulty. None really need skill per se, but you do need to know what to do or infer what to do based on the limited context clues. It was undoubtedly a massive catalyst for schoolyard rumors. I'm going to leave the rest for you to discover yourself. So how does this all tie back in to Nintendo's strategy with Pokémon Snap? Well, we have a game that is perfect for demo stations due to both its session length and required time to clear the game, a limited barrier of entry. We have a game that is a breeding ground for schoolyard rumors. We have a game that is welcoming to new and especially young players due to its mellow difficulty. And we have a game without any battling, and that's a big deal. Pokémon Snap was an awareness campaign. Sure, Nintendo wanted to sell copies, and they did, but the game was also easily accessible through demo stations and rentals, and the fact that it didn't focus on battling made it far more appealing to a huge variety of audiences. Battling appeals to a massive audience, and it has only grown bigger over time. Just look at the competitive scene. But Nintendo and the Pokemon Company didn't and don't want the franchise to be primarily associated with battles. They wanted eyes on Pokemon with shiny, new 3D graphics that were quite impressive for the time. They wanted little boys and girls to watch Pikachu hop on a surfboard if they knew how to make it happen. They wanted potential fans to see the incredible moment that Moltres emerges from the volcano after they knock the egg into the lava. And that one is almost guaranteed to happen very early in the game. Pretty easy to accomplish while waiting for your mom to finish shopping. They wanted people to view Pokemon as living, breathing creatures. Creatures with personalities, natural cycles, and ecological impact. They wanted the cultural zeitgeist to be about the Pokemon, not the battling. Hey You Pikachu had the same objective, though it was far less successful due to a number of factors. Maybe that's a video for another time. Like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to see that. All other games up to Pokémon Snap were rooted in battling. Red, Blue, and Yellow, Pokémon Stadium, and Pokémon Trading Card Game for the Game Boy. But Snap was different. Nintendo and the Pokémon Company has continued this strategy with many different games and products over time. So, has it been successful? Pokémon is the single most profitable franchise of all time, and it's because of the Pokémon themselves, not about the battling. It appeals to such a crazy wide audience and has so many different ways to enjoy it, and that's what makes Pokémon so special. Pokémon Snap was an early glimpse into a long-term strategy to turn Pokémon into a household name. It really was propaganda. Hey, you made it to the end of the video! Let me know if you heard about finding Mew on a school playground in the comments, and please consider subscribing if you enjoyed this. On screen is another analysis video, and another video that you might like. Thanks so much for watching.